Well, good afternoon. We're coming to you from the Oklahoma State Firefighters Association and our wonderful museum that we're really, really proud of. We think this is one of the crown jewels of firefighter history right here in Oklahoma. And I'm of course partial, but this is one of the best museums of firefighting history, I think, anywhere in the nation. I'm Don Arms. I do government relations and whatever's needed for the Oklahoma Firefighter Association. And we're here today to shoot our first episode, our maiden voyage, if you will, of what we're going to call the Firehouse Chronicles. And what the Firehouse Chronicles is kind of supposed to be is a living history of a lifetime spent serving others as seen through the eyes of our veteran firefighters. And I think it's real important to remember this history and some of our guys that have been around and seen some just phenomenal things. And we've got Mr. Clifford Lewis here today with us. And Clifford was a firefighter both in the Air Force, and then after your Air Force career, you were a paid firefighter in Oklahoma City, you said, correct? So tell us a little bit about when you started.
From Oklahoma City?
Yeah, now you started in the Air Force, firefighter there.
Well, of course, I went through basic training and back to the Air Force base, and then after we finished that, my orders were to go to Arizona and to be in the fire protection program. And that program consisted of crash rescue firefighters. And there were a few structural stations, but the majority was our crash rescue. And that's what I did all through my career in the Air Force. I was in the Air Force like 4 years and 1 month.
Okay. So then you were a firefighter. I mean, you were an Air Force firefighter. Is that a civil service job after? Or did you go, so you were a firefighter, you were in the Air Force, an active duty airman.
Yes.
And then you were a firefighter for the Air Force after that, correct?
No, okay. Firefighter for Oklahoma City.
Okay. So I want to kind of go, and it's interesting because you've got a pretty unique story. What I really want to focus on, and we'll get there in just a second, but what I really want to, first of all, cover your Air Force duty, because you were one of a special group of people that, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of you left around. But you were what we call an atomic veteran. So tell us about that.
Well, the atomic veterans are made up of personnel, military personnel that were involved in some manner with the atomic testing of our atomic bomb. Okay. And I was selected or was assigned with 2 other of our firefighters from our base to go to Johnston Island. I think there's something Johnston Atoll, but that's where we were assigned to go. We were told what we were going to be doing there. But you
were a young airman, you were following orders.
Yeah, so we picked up our orders, cleared the base, and went to travel to Travis Air Force Base, and then we caught the next day after we got to Travis. We caught a Air Force plane, right, and they took us to Johnston Island, and we didn't really know what we were going to be doing there, but Johnston Island was just a little mile-square island, and it was kind of funny. I was sitting on a seat that I could see as we went there, and when we started our descent to land on the island, I'm looking down, and I'm seeing this water.
You're not thinking there's a splash.
That water's getting closer and closer. So then finally, the jerk, then we hit the runway. So then we checked in, and we was assigned our barracks and our work site. Our work site was just a little, like a two-car garage. Then a brush pumper that we use as a crash rig.
Okay.
And there was 4 of us assigned there. And the sergeant that was in charge, the crew chief, I can't remember his name, but I think he was from Alabama.
So you were sent to, it's Johnston with a T, right? Johnston Island.
JOHNSTON.
Okay, so Johnston Island, and that's near Hawaii, if I remember.
Yes, it's about 700 miles, about southwest of Hawaii.
And so you went there, and that was the site of the nuclear testing that was going on Atoll or Johnston Atoll.
Right.
And so you guys didn't have any idea. You're just following orders.
Right.
You showed up, did what you're supposed to do, and all that.
Yeah, we checked in on the base.
Yeah.
All the things we're supposed to do, and then we're and they show us the work site, and which was about 25 yards or so of the barracks that we lived in. That was,
I was going to say, if it's a mile square, there wasn't a lot of it.
No.
Space was a premium, wasn't it?
The other mile ago, John was just a little island. We just walked across it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
It was, had good weather.
Yeah, I bet. And we are, folks, while we're talking, this is a real informal visit, just to, again, to kind of capture some of this really special history, but we are in a working museum, so, there may be a family come in with little kids or whatever, so bear with us. We're not in any kind of a magic set here. We're just in the middle of the museum, and so, there may be some interruptions here and there, but don't hold that against us, I guess. So just to follow through on that, on the atomic testing, you told me in our visit we had prior that you guys actually witnessed an atomic explosion.
Yeah, that was prior to that, we went through 2 overhead. I'm not sure what the dates are, but I think it was sometime in October.
Okay.
Of 62. But they told everybody to gather on the island. They had everybody gather on the island in the center. So we did what they did. We get up there and we seat you, and then they tell you to, put your head between your knees. And
reminds me of what they used to do to us in grade school. They had an atomic bomb drill or whatever back in the early 60s. Right. I was a little kid. So then they hand us these goggles, these dark colored goggles. Yeah. And then I think they told us what, they would tell us when they put the goggles on and when the thing was going to detonate, it's going to be above us. I think it was from a missile, I think it was airdropped. But anyway, that was my next question. You said from the air. I wondered if that was dropped from a plane or shot. Maybe. I think it was a missile. Okay. But anyway, so we did that with waiting, and then they said, do you close your eyes? And then when that thing went, just like daylight, sure, it's just bright. This was at night, correct or no? This was like in the afternoon. Okay. 4 o'clock. Okay, so it was full light outside, but it was
It was, just bright.
Almost like a welding arc, maybe.
Because they tell you, don't open your eyes. And then when it's over, and then they really got to the car dog was off inside.
They did everything they knew at the time to maybe try to protect you as best they could, but how far away would you say that explosion was? If you're guessing.
I'll have you make a guess. It's good. I wouldn't know.
Well, that's interesting. I just can't imagine. There's not very many people alive that have witnessed an atomic explosion.
Well, we didn't see it, but we knew it was above us.
Right.
You could see it, the lights at least.
Right.
So, but then several weeks later, we had to gather on an island again. So we got up there, but on the second one, they loaded it up on the little craft that goes on water and land. They call it a land.
Oh, yeah.
And they took us out about 300 yards to this sand island. And I think it was a weather station. So they gathered us up, put us all on that island, and then we had to do the same routine again. Get the goggles, and I think on this one we kind of stood up against the sand to right. So, and then they detonated that one. And on the second one, I could feel that upper wind past my cheek and my skin. So I asked this firefighters I was with, I said, did you feel the upper wind when that thing detonated? But he never answered me, so apparently they didn't hear me. So, but that was it was a little later in the day, it was darker.
Yeah.
But it was still bright flash. That detonation made.
Yeah. There's a move afoot you've told me a little bit about. There's some recognition may be coming for the atomic veterans, and I don't know how many of them. Do you know how many are left?
No. Through the actual test, I don't know how many are left from the actual test, but they had cleanup crews and stuff.
I'm sure.
Go to the island and I'll read in our magazine, our Atomic Vets magazine, there's possibly, maybe 400,000 in months. And they cut off date that their count is like 1992.
So there were other guys that came later that were involved in atomic testing and things like that, in later settings.
They come to clean up the island.
Right.
Because I don't believe they had any more atomic testings out there above ground.
Right. So. Interesting. And you had mentioned, and I've kind of made a few notes about this from our visits. So you were telling me a story about where you were when President Kennedy was assassinated. I believe it was 1963, somewhere in there. Tell us about that. That was an interesting kind of.
I was coming back from leave, and a friend of my father was wanting to go. He was heading back to California, so I was going to Arizona, and he was in the mountains going down towards, I think it's Bisbee, Benson, Arizona. And that's, we were listening to the radio, that's when, they broke in and said, President Kennedy was, assassinated, so.
What do you remember about your reaction to that? I mean, everybody's reactions were different. And I think the country was shocked, but.
Yeah, we're just, I said, wow, gosh, that's what's, yeah. But when, of course, I got to the base, and that thing was, just shut down tight. Right. So I had to show ID, driver's license, and you show up. So they let me back in, and so I went to the barracks, and of course I had to go to work, like at the home shift. Right.
Takes a minute, something like that, a major event, takes a minute to kind of process. You kind of got to get your mind around what just happened. That's a major thing. I mean, that's something we still talk about. I was 3 years old. I can't say I remember, but I've heard lots of stories. My elders and folks in my family talked about where they were and what they kind of like for my age group would be. Where were you when the Twin Towers were hit or something like that? It's one of those pivotal moments.
Right.
But that's interesting that you've experienced some of those things that we just read about, talk about, hear about. But you were there for a lot of that, and that's interesting. So. Now, you are a Native American. What tribe are you?
Mvskoke Creek.
Mvskoke Creek, okay. Where is that mainly located? What part of the state?
Beneath Oklahoma. Our tribal capital is Oklahoma.
Okay, I was thinking it's kind of northeast-ish.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of those. That's interesting. And I think some of the Native American tribes even have their own fire departments, don't they? Some of the larger ones, some of them.
I could do because I visited Arizona one year, and I went to a little town called Venado, Arizona, and they have a little fire department that's on renovation. Right. And they gave me a patch. So,
that's neat. That's neat. So, so you went through the atomic, and for your Air Force part of your career as a firefighter, atomic veteran through there. Then when you got out of the Air Force, then you became a firefighter in Oklahoma City. Is that correct? Tell us about kind of the time frame.
Can I tell you about that? Can I tell you about the airdrop, the atomic bomb, while I was still on Johnston Island?
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
So, anyway, after the other two tests that they had above us, so come over the loudspeaker on the island one day that just went off an atomic bomb out, in the ocean out in the Pacific. I don't even remember how many miles that they said it would be. But anyway, they told us it was pretty good rundown on when the plane left. They said that the plane is leaving, the aircraft is leaving now, and he's going to their drop zone. So we were standing outside of our crash station, the little building, that he took off. And so then, I forgot how much time passed. But then they come back on the PA system and said the aircraft is in so many miles from his drop zone. So then, just a little bit later, they told us that the aircraft was over the drop zone and then the bomb had been dropped. So then they counted it down for us, 10, 9, 8, and on down. And when they said detonate, man, it was daylight, real pretty day. And it just lit up this, and it was a big flash. And then it started just coming up, and it was just fire, red, orange, and it was, this big ball of fire, I guess you could say, but it was an awesome sight, but it was kind of a scary sight too, because, you just seeing that and just taking it in and trying to,
I bet you never forgot it.
I haven't.
I would say that would stick with you for your whole life, probably.
And I believe, that from according to some of the literature I read, that was the last air drop. So now it's gone.
So it makes me wonder, Clifford, I guess the first was Hiroshima, first atomic bomb used as a weapon, I guess. So do you think they understood by that time, surely, because that was what, 40s? World War II, I believe. So they would have understood radiation, and hopefully they would try to get away from y'all far enough. Do you think there was any radiation exposure? I mean, there almost bound to be some.
Yeah. In my mind, there was. That we received some of that.
No, I mean, if you're close enough to see it,
Yeah.
I would think that there would be some exposure. I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not a scientist, but
I think on the same line too, that we had, something had to carry over the winter. The two that were above us there, we received some radiation from that.
did you ever have any ill effects that you know of that you could attribute to that? Or?
No, fortunately.
Yeah.
I had any cancers that they presumption all now.
Right.
That if you get certain cancers, and you file a claim from right of VA, but we don't have any of those, and I don't want that.
No, I'm kind of glad you don't. I mean, it's, obviously live a good, long life, but it makes you wonder, if they do that, they put you in harm's way. Knowingly or, whether they meant to or not, I guess.
Because I always joke, I always say, I'm my own life.
It's a radioactive glowing dark. Well, it's interesting. That's a really interesting story. I mean, there's just so few of you. And I understand, going back just a little bit, backtracking in our conversation, the recognition that you told me about earlier, I guess there are some medals that will be presented to you guys at some point. They think the medals are coming. Tell me.
Well, they've been, after our tour of Jumpton Island, we weren't allowed to talk about it. We were, and I think in 1996, we finally said, it started becoming public. Right. We started talking about it and writing about it. And
kind of took the veil of secrecy away from it, maybe.
So then, after that, we started working on trying to get recognition for the atomic veterans. And the gentleman that started the National Association of Atomic Veterans. Okay. Worked on it, and but we never get it passed or anything. So recently, in the last Congress, a congressman from Texas carried the bill.
Okay.
And so finally, they went through both the applicants into family center, and the president signed it. So now we're waiting for the Atomic Veterans Service Medal.
Okay.
So,
Well, so you deserve it. I want to say on behalf of, I guess, it sounds cliche to say this, but on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you for your service, because that's a unique piece. I mean, not very many. There's lots of veterans out there that have been in skirmishes of one kind or another. But I say I've never even known of anybody that, of course, my ignorance, but I've never known anybody that has ever watched an atomic bomb. It's actually explode and go off. That's kind of a unique perspective, you know.
Just very odd that it never happened.
Sure. Well, you understand the power of it. Like I say, when you experience that huge explosion, you get it. I mean, we read about it, hear about it, see a picture on TV or maybe an old film, and we say, "Boy, that must have been massive." You were there. That's pretty unique.
There's a distance away, but
yes. But if you felt the wind, I mean, that's
the second, the one above us. We didn't get to see those, but we could see the flash, and we knew that
something big just happened.
Yeah.
Well, so that you also, after you got out of the Air Force and served your time as an airman and firefighter, then you became a paid firefighter at Oklahoma City, correct?
Yes, I went to work in Oklahoma City in May of 1966.
Wow. Okay.
I stayed until January 1, 1994.
Wow. It's a good long career. For a guy that's radioactive, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You know, I mean, that's, and luckily, then you worked, so you were a paid firefighter, started, I guess, at the ground floor like anybody else.
Yeah.
So you started out in kind of the rookie status. I mean, you knew, obviously coming in, you knew more than you'd been prepared and trained.
Well, at the air base, when I first went in and I was assigned to the air base, we went through, classes and stuff, taught us and stuff. But, so I had a little knowledge about fire service when I joined Oklahoma City.
You which end the hose to grab already, I'm sure. You weren't just a green, like a lot of these young guys come in and no fault. I mean, just they don't know. They're young, they're green, they're starting. But you kind of, sounds like you had a pretty good base. I'm sure you were ahead of the game, maybe, as coming in. And then you, so you served as a firefighter for a while. Then tell me about the inspector part. You became
in 1978, I went into the fire marshal's office because they had created an arson division in addition to code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the arson division, and that's where I spent the last, 15 years of my career as an investigator.
So you probably had, I'm not very good at math on my feet, but you've been a fireman a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's with your Air Force time and your paid time at Oklahoma City and all that, you've been a fireman a long time.
And this will be fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank goodness you stayed healthy and were able to complete your career. No big, I'm sure you probably had little things along the way, but no majors.
Prostate cancer, but I wasn't on the job.
Right.
Prostate cancer.
Which you could attribute to almost anything. I mean, it's hard to tell the cause of some of those things, but so you're a cancer survivor on top of all that.
Right.
Well, they're not done with you yet, are they? They're still with us. And when I've had several conversations with you, and I've really kind of learned something along the way. And I love history. I love to hear, kind of how things were and things like that. So, and I think there's other people out there. One reason we're doing this little broadcast is to kind of tell some of these stories. And you retired the year before the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes.
Thank goodness you didn't have to. You don't have any Oklahoma stories other than just personal stories of living here.
Right. I can tell you that from the National Association of Atomic Veterans, they called me one day from the national office,
Right.
and asked me if I would become state commander.
Well, okay.
The atomic veterans.
Right.
So
That's neat.
I said yes. And, I said I'll do it for a while.
Yeah.
And of course, we had project that they want us to do.
Sure.
And I think I've talked to you about getting maybe a day in Oklahoma.
Yes.
July 16th is Atomic Veterans Day. Yeah, plus maybe getting a bridge or part of a road name.
Something that's there
in honor
and years down the road, people will say, wonder what that means, and they'll look it up maybe and learn the history, and that's neat. So, and I think that's doable. I mean, I was sitting there thinking, of course, I do government relations work, and I don't think that's a big stretch. That should be a thing that sure enough should be recognized. We recognize a lot of different phases of veteran service, and so I think that's a very logical thing, to recognize that facet, because again, that's a pretty unique group. There's not a lot of people.
I think on my rolls now, the last one they sent me was about like 32 members on there, but they're hard to contact.
Yeah, getting up there and maybe that radiation may have made you live longer. So I don't know. It's really hard to say. But I appreciate your service to our country, of course, and your lifetime of dedication to the fire service. Again, there's a lot of guys that go through a career, but you kind of had a dual career with your Air Force and your Oklahoma City time, and that's a storied career. I mean, it's a long run and a successful run, and we appreciate public safety is an important thing. And sometimes we don't think about. I know most guys like you. If I said, well, these are our heroes. These are the guys that went out and went into the face of danger. A lot of people would not agree with that. But I think our firefighters and first responders are heroes, and so I think it's admirable, and we appreciate it. Appreciate your time and all that. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and visit with us a little bit about some of the things you've seen.
I enjoyed it, and like I said, I do all I can for the fire service, even though I'm retired now.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, and you mentioned that, and I think that's another thing. You've been very active in the OSFA, the Oklahoma State Firefighters Association, which I've been part of here for many years, and I noticed that you're at everything. You come to stuff, you show up, you lend your support. You're an active member of the association. I'm not
glad I'm still able.
Well, me too. We are very glad you're still able. So, Clifford, thank you very much. I hope this was easy for you. I know it's a lot of light and everything, but I know it's.
I appreciate you doing this.
These are important stories, and I think that's one thing I want. My vision of what we're going to call the Firehouse Chronicles is to capture some of this stuff, some of these great stories, some of these great memories, and of course, it's again, we're in the perfect setting for that with this museum. And, we're real proud of this. I know you are. You're not old enough to do these horse-drawn things, but but I mean, there's a lot of good history here, and there's some old trucks here probably from your era. But we appreciate you taking your time and enjoy the visit. And they've got some stuff. I think they're going to add some things that you brought with film and all that. And we'll figure out a way to get a copy of this for your family too, you guys to be able to see this.
I thank you for
doing this. I'm glad we're getting to. I really am. We've got Lance, our videographer. He's got a ton of experience and some great equipment. Yeah. So we're going to be able to keep telling some of these stories. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Appreciate your time, Clifford. And this is the Firehouse Chronicles, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Good deal. Yeah, man. That's good.
How did it go?
I think, well, I don't know yet, Lance.
It's kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had my timer in my lap.